Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. I wanted to do a real quick video about my favorites for pregnancy because I've had so many friends ask me what my favorite supplements are, what my favorite hacks for morning sickness are. And so I thought that since I'm at the very end of this pregnancy that I would share some of my favorite things. Also, I want to mention, sorry in advance for my voice. I have a little bit of a cold or something my kids have lovingly shared with me. And so I'm trying to kick that before I end up going into labor because that would be awful. Anyways, if I sound a little raspy, it's just because my throat is really sore and I'm trying to get better before I bring a baby home to all of this. So let's get started. First things first is obviously gonna be hydration. So my Stanley did not leave my side this entire pregnancy. It can be really hard in the first trimester if you have morning sickness to keep anything down, but it's really important to stay as hydrated as you possibly can. So I always try and make sure, this is the 40 ounce. So basically I would just try to refill this a couple times. And going with that, electrolytes. So this is the brand Good On Ya. It's actually an organic electrolyte mix. I love this, but I also really like Element. That's another really popular one. This one only comes in one flavor, which honestly I feel like is totally fine. So yeah, electrolytes, water. Definitely, if you have nothing else, I feel like staying hydrated is one of the most important things. Next on the list is Prenatals. So this is by Needed. I actually really love this because it's a powder and it's not in a capsule or a pill, which again, if you have morning sickness, can be so hard to swallow pills. I would gag every single time and usually just wouldn't even take my prenatal because I just didn't want to get sick. So this I love because it's already in a powder form. You just scoop it in. I will say it doesn't smell the best. So if you are nauseous, that's something to keep in consideration, but I honestly could handle the smell. And I just put it in juice or whatever. But I also love this because it has folate instead of folic acid. They third-party test for heavy metals, and I'm really super picky about ingredients and what I consume, especially when I'm pregnant. And I really love this company. I actually even reached out to them and asked them about their third-party testing, about mold and heavy metals and things like that. And they were super transparent, which that in itself is absolutely something you want from a supplement company. The next thing on my list is, I don't have it with me right now, but comfy leggings. I don't buy a whole lot of maternity clothing. My entire outfit right now is non-maternity, to be honest. I do invest in some maternity leggings that are really comfortable and stretchy. I really like the ones that come all the way up over the belly. It's just more comfortable for me, but definitely get some of those because having anything tight, super tight, is just so uncomfortable. And I really like the ones that are non-compressive. So I would get a pair of those, and then especially in the first trimester, some really comfy joggers that are also kind of loose on your waistband. Even though you don't have a bump yet, you're gonna be bloated. Everything's just gonna feel a little bit uncomfortable. So I lived in comfy clothes, joggers, leggings, sweatshirts, comfortable t-shirts, whatever it might be. But get yourself some cozy, comfy, stretchy clothes. Another thing that I think is really important, and I don't think that it's ever too early to start using it, is a really good body butter. This is the Primally Pure brand, and this is the eucalyptus and lavender. They also have just a plain baby balm that you can use on yourself, and I start literally from the moment I find out I'm pregnant, I slather my belly and my skin in balm and butter. Your skin stretches and changes so much, and so I try to avoid getting stretch marks as much as possible, and just like feeling comfortable, because when your skin stretches, it can get itchy, it can get dry, and having something that's going to be like nourishing on your belly while also, you know, helping to prevent stretch marks is always a plus in my book. Another thing that is not like something I can actually like physically hold would be a bingeable TV show. So whether that be Friends or Gilmore Girls or whatever it might be, I found it really helpful to have a TV show that was uplifting and light and funny and happy, but had a lot of seasons that I could kind of distract myself from how sick I felt, and just like getting cozy on the couch and like curling up and watching a TV show when you really just don't feel good enough to do anything was really helpful for me. So I really like to find some sort of bingeable TV show. The next thing on my list is some organic herbal tea. This is peppermint from Traditional Medicinals. I love this brand because not only are they organic, but the tea bags themselves are 100% compostable. They're made out of a leaf fiber, so there's no plastic. And then this wrapper is also industrially compostable. So you can't put it in your compost, but you can put the tea bags, like the entire thing, into your compost if that's something that you do. But I really trust this brand and I love this brand so much. Not only that, but peppermint tea is really good for nausea. And like settling your stomach. So like if you have an upset stomach, or if you're like super nauseous or you've been throwing up, peppermint tea is really great for that. Ginger is also a really good one for that. And then going from that into essential oils. So like this is the peppermint oil, and I would keep this and ginger just like near me so that I could just literally like smell it, and just having it to smell would help so much with my nausea. So those are two other things that I recommend having. Another thing that I forgot to mention is like ginger chews. Again, for if you're nauseous, they're really good for just kind of settling your stomach and kind of keeping that nausea at bay. I really like, I don't even remember the brand, but it's like this little ginger guy, and I'll link it for you guys. But it's actually really, I like the way it tastes, but it also really does help with curbing my morning sickness. I also really liked, for the first time this pregnancy, I tried C-bands because I would get really super nauseous in the car. So they're like these little bands that have like a pressure point that goes on your wrist. And I will say they helped quite a bit. So like if we had a long road trip, or just even had to like drive to Dallas for the day or something, I would use those and they helped so much. So I would definitely recommend those if like getting in the car makes you feel really sick. Another thing that I really recommend in pregnancy is finding really good and encouraging books. So this is an example of one of them. This is The First 40 Days. And it's basically just like a slow guide to nourishing and taking care of yourself in the postpartum period, which I think is really important, especially in our culture. We tend to want to bounce back and like just jump right back into quote unquote like normal life right after having a baby, which having a baby is such a transformative experience that we change. I mean, I've changed after every single baby I've had, and we need to give our bodies time to rest and to replenish those nutrients, because labor and delivery and pregnancy in general is one of those processes in life that just depletes you so much of nutrients. So I love this book because it kind of encourages people to go against the grain and to kind of follow a more slow living approach to the postpartum period, or the fourth trimester, as a lot of people call it. Other books that I really love are Real Food for Pregnancy. That one is really informative about getting like the proper nutrients in pregnancy. I also love the books by Ina May Gaskin. She is a midwife, and she has a couple of books like Spiritual Midwifery and her Guide to Childbirth, which I've done. I mean, I've read that one and it's so good. And then also the Bradley method, which is also really good for kind of preparing you for a natural birth. There are so many good ones out there. What I would avoid doing though is listening to or reading any traumatic birth stories while you're pregnant. And that goes for like on social media or in books or in podcasts or whatever, because those can really affect you mentally and you don't need that energy when you're pregnant. I try to avoid that at all costs. I would focus on the really positive birth stories and books with really positive and encouraging information instead of like the fear mongering. Kind of piggybacking off of that, I really think that it's important to find some good like podcast if that's something that you're into. I love podcasts. So the Pain Free Birth podcast has been a really helpful one for me. I find the birth stories to be really encouraging. And this goes along with like not just podcasts, but like even just like positive like social media accounts like on Instagram. Like Beautiful Midwifery is a great one, Pain Free Birth, Christian Hypnobirthing. They're all really encouraging. And so finding something like that that will make you feel like yes, I can do this. The last thing that I would put on your must-have baby pregnancy journey list is a red light. I don't have mine down here because it's upstairs and it's massive. I have like a huge half body panel, but having any kind of red light device is going to be really helpful, not just for pregnancy, but like postpartum too. So the only caveat with having a red light therapy device during pregnancy is that you just don't want to shine it directly on your belly. So I would use it for like my chest, my legs, my arms, whatever, my face especially. I would always just make sure I put like a pillow over my belly or like in some way was like shielding my belly. So I think red light is extremely important, not just for like your skin health and your cell health, but also there have been studies that show that it helps with maternal depression and anxiety, and also like carrying that over into the postpartum healing. Obviously, once you're postpartum, you can obviously, of course, put on your belly. I plan to do that just for the healing benefits of it. Also using it for kind of curbing any sort of postpartum depression or anxiety, or just kind of helping with mood in general, because I have had a history of postpartum depression and anxiety. I want to do everything I possibly can to avoid going through that again or it being as severe. That's really all that I have on my list. I honestly try to keep it really minimalist when it comes to pregnancy. Like I said, I don't buy a whole lot of like maternity specific things. I have like a few staple pieces in my maternity wardrobe, and it literally consists mostly of leggings, like a handful of tank tops, and a couple of t-shirts. Like that is literally it. I try to stretch my actual wardrobe as much as possible without like, ruining my clothes. Keeping a really minimalist wardrobe for maternity, but also just like keeping it really minimalist with the things that I buy. I buy these things normally anyways, like electrolytes and body butter and things like that. There are, like I said, specialty things in here, like of course these needed prenatal vitamins. Other than that, I really try to keep it really minimal, and I feel like you really just don't need a whole lot for pregnancy. One other thing that I do want to mention, which I guess is not really a necessity, like you don't have to download this app, but one that I really love in pregnancy is the KSL Studio. It's basically just like an exercise app, and she breaks down prenatal workouts by trimester and then by week. So being active in pregnancy is really important. Obviously, you want to keep yourself moving, you want to keep yourself strong, especially as your body is changing so much. but she makes it so easy and just takes all of the thinking out of it for you, and you just follow the program. I mean, you obviously don't have to do, you know, all 5 days if that's just unrealistic for you, but just having something where you can just like open and go is super helpful in pregnancy. And I love that they're all pretty much like 30 minutes or less. So if you have other kids, if you've got a busier lifestyle, it's not impossible to fit in. I always feel stronger when I work out in pregnancy. So that's another one that I really love. Again, like if you have a gym membership or if you have a trainer or whatever, that's not a necessity for you then. But if you just want to have like a quick home workout to keep yourself healthy during pregnancy, I really highly suggest that app. And I will also link that in the description. I'm going to try and link everything here because I always find that really helpful. I'm one of those people, I'm like, okay, where did you get that? And so I'll try and link everything I possibly can for you. That's it. That's all I got. But thank you for hanging out with me. If this was helpful, please let me know. If there's something that you would add or you think that like I missed, let me know in the comments. I love making these videos for y'all. I think it's so much fun. And I would love if you would hit like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.